Sea of Thieves Season 11 just got released, so that begs the question, is it worth revisiting in 2024? I won't claim to be some kind of pirate god, but I have been around since the release in 2018, and my claim to fame is that I was able to reach Pirate Legend before Emissaries when you had to grind golden chickens for Merchant Alliance. It's developed by Rare, who you might know as the company that developed the cult classic 007 GoldenEye, and it's published by Microsoft Studios. With the most recent release of Season 11 and Rare's storied background, is this game worth revisiting in 2024? So once you load into Sea of Thieves for the first time, you're introduced to the three main factions: Gold Hoarders, Order of Souls, and the Merchant Alliance. I want to say from like levels 1 to 10 in reputation for these factions, I'm going to call the early game because you're just doing basic dig up quests, delivering some chickens, or fighting really basic skeletons. But it is probably the most boring and the most grindy part of Sea of Thieves, and this is the only part I would say that hasn't been touched with any of their big updates as the early game. It's kind of been consistent since its drop in 2018. Once you hit like level 20 to 25 reputation in a bunch of different factions, that's kind of when you sort of hit the mid-game point. Maybe you're comfortable enough now with your ship and with your sailing and kind of just catching wind and knowing where to go. Then maybe you'll explore with another faction called the Reaper's Bones. Basically takes all of your loot and goes towards just one faction called Reaper's Bones. This is where I would say most people start experimenting with a little bit of PvP and maybe a little bit of like the world events that happen. This for me was the most fun because I really felt like I was getting the most out of the game while still journeying forward, while still accomplishing something and working towards a goal. I want to say once you hit reputation 50 in your three main factions, you get Pirate Legend, which is essentially when the end game starts because now you've unlocked access to Athena's Fortune. The updates are targeted more towards Pirate Legends because there's just so many more cosmetics and things like that targeted towards once you've completed the game, I guess. When the game first came out in 2018, there was only one substantial world event, and that was the Skeleton Forts. Now that we're in Season 11, there is such a large multitude of world events. You have fleets, which is just like skeleton ships. I almost want to call Kraken and Megalodon world events. You have your fortresses, still your skeleton forts, but you have like three different tiers. There's Fort of the Dam, there's Fort of Fortune, and there's just regular skeleton forts. I don't know if they took away just regular skeleton fleets, but now I know they have a harder one. And all of these world events are symbolized by a really cool feature. It's a massive cloud in the sky that has a symbol relating to what event they are. I like this system because it shows everybody where the event is, and it can pull so many people to fight for one event. Sometimes you show up and it's just you clear the event in 15 minutes, you get your loot, you go sell it. Sometimes you show up and every crew on the server decides to show up because they want that loot. And this has probably been some of the most boring, but also some of the most exhilarating and fun times I've had in 10 years of gaming. Ugh, the PvP in this game. When I first started, PvP was, I want to say, relatively easy. They were just becoming the notion of double gunning and things like that. I want to say PvP now because the game's been out so long and it's had such a cult following to it. It's almost at an esports level. It's really hard to get into PvP if you haven't been playing for a really long time. There's a lot of little tricks you can do, but that does take a lot of time to like learn how to do like a charge sword jump to get more distance on your swing. So it's a little hard to get into, but they do have a really good system now. There's a little hourglass on your bow, and if you hit that, you can go down into PvP and it'll match you with the same crew size. I love PvP, but I do understand it's got a bit of a skill barrier to entry. The overall skill for PvP in Sea of Thieves now has grown exceptionally since when the game first came out and everyone was still learning the range on swords and things like that. Okay, I know it's not called Sea of Friends, but PvE in this game, Rare has done such a great job of making it so you can have an authentic, fun pirate experience without the need to deal with maybe a toxic crew, maybe a crew that's way above your skill level. So many times you'll just be sailing off, doing a voyage, and you think that's your PvP, then you get hit with a skeleton ship, Megalodon, a Kraken. There's a lot of things in this world that fill it, so it's not just dig up chests, get them stolen by other players. They've also added, I think this was last season, Safer Seas, and I know this is gonna split Sea of Thieves fans a lot, but just hear me out. If you're living an adult life that's filled with a lot of things, you don't have 6 hours to sit in front of your computer, guard your loot, go and sell it. You have to get up, you have to go take care of your kids, you have to walk your dog. Safer Seas is a great option for that. It makes the game so much more accessible to a much larger audience. So I'm a huge supporter of Safer Seas because not only does it make the game more accessible to everyone and more fun for people's personal experience, so PvE is great for this game. It's not just a PvP sandbox. The world exploration in this game is top notch. Rare, they've added little stories that's up for interpretation on almost every single island. You can find tons of little scenes, little camps, skeletons, journals. They've done a great job of adding just such a deep and rich lore to, on the surface, what looks kind of like a goofy pirate game. I won't lie. Sea of Thieves is much better when enjoyed with friends. That's why when you're picking a crew, I'd suggest finding either your duo partner, three-way, or a foursome, and sailing with them. It's a little hard, I understand, to convince friends to buy this game or find friends that already play this game. I'm a solo slooper. Sometimes my buddy Connor plays with me, but it's not his favorite game. He likes it, and he's really good, don't get it twisted. But most of the time, especially of recent history, I've been a solo slooper. So I understand the want to find a crew. They've also added guilds. Now this is great because I think guilds can hold up to 24 people. So if you have an online community or a Discord that you're in that plays it, you can all join the same guild and you can see who's online at that time, and you have a much bigger pool to pull from of like-minded pirates who want to play the game with you. The bane of this game, the worst thing, is the open crews. I like what Rare did, adding that as an option, but in my experience, I've never had a good time on an open crew. You either match with a squeaker, an older guy having a domestic with his wife, or people who just refuse to talk. I want to say like 92% of the time I've joined an open crew, it's just people trolling, blowing up your ship with kegs, dropping your loot off as you're sailing back to sell it. It makes the game really hard, and I think this is probably the biggest bane. I understand why they have to have it, but it's just the community of trolls that likes to get in there and mess shit up. If you're not in a guild, you don't have friends online, or you don't have any friends that want to play Sea of Thieves, your best option available to you would be Xbox Game Bar or just the Xbox looking for a group tab. This is good because it means that people have put the time in and they're looking to do a specific thing in the game and they're serious about it. I've had some great voyages with LFG people using that tab, but again, it is still kind of risky. It's hard to get in, and I want to say the time it takes to get in, normally you're burnt out, you don't even want to play anymore. When you're in a game, you can form an alliance, and this just means you go up to your little crow's nest, you put up your alliance flag, people can join it. There is a bane to this as well. People like to troll. I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty of it. You can see your alliance ships on the map. This is bad because if you get trolls, they just know where you are all the time. They'll wait till you have a bunch of loot, sink you, take the loot for themselves. But if you get in a good alliance, it works great because as you sell loot, their ship will get a little bit of reputation and a little bit of money, and vice versa. When they sell the loot, you'll get a little bit of money and a little bit of reputation. So it can work in your favor, but it is a little risky because you are always available to be seen on the map table. The clothes. I don't know if you've noticed yet, but I'm an absolute sucker for fashion in video games, and Sea of Thieves is no exception. There is so many clothing options. There's so many different ways to style your pirate. If you want to be a grungy drunk, go ahead and dress like that. If you want to be like a regal Navy sailor, go ahead and dress like that. If you want to be some weird crab-armed parrot looking guy, go ahead and dress like that. There is a small PvP importance to clothing. Not that I'm good enough to notice the difference when I wear these clothes, but you will notice sweats will wear all black and they'll take their boots off because the boots have a sound cue in the game that knocks really hard when running on the wood of a ship, whereas if you're barefoot, it's a lot less. Another great way to show completion in this game is they added curses. Curses change your pirate to make it look like it has like a Pirates of the Caribbean world curse. Like you can have the red eyes, you can have the, I think it's like black tear eyes, you can be half gold. The curses are great because it shows completion, it shows devotion to the game, and it makes you just look fucking sick. I remember when they added pets. I love the pets. Fully just for cosmetic, but just having a pet on your ship gives you something to interact with. You can shoot it out of a cannon onto maybe your alliance shipmate's ship. There's just a lot of fun you can have with them. I think they're a great way to like personalize your pirate, and if you're doing a 6-hour play, it's nice to have a companion if you're solo slooping. The ship customization in this game tells you everything you gotta know about a pirate. Decorate your ship however you want. This is probably my favorite part of the game because when it first came out, there was like green sails, red sails, blue sails, but now you can change your cannons, you can change your mast piece, you can add your names to your ship if you buy them. You can really get in and make the pirate ship you want to make. I sail on the Anne Frank's Revenge. Shout out to my buddy Matt who gave us that name. Just the addition of being able to name your ship, customize your ship how you want it, change your hull, change your cannons, really kind of immerses me in the game because I want to sail with the coolest looking ship. It's always a competition of the fashion ships. The absolute best part about this game, the part I love the most, the part I love any game for if they do this, is there's no barrier to entry for content. That means there's no paid DLC, there's no paid nothing, everything is given to you for free. There's no pay to win weapons, there's no damage stat on weapons that differ, there's no sniper that's better than the other. This game is balanced in such a good way because it gives you, whether you're Reputation 1 in all your factions or Reputation 100 in all your factions, you can do the same damage, you have the same range, you have the same ability to damage somebody's ship. Balance in this game, I think, think personally is very, very well done. There is a pay shop, but it's purely for cosmetics. So some could argue there's a little bit of advantage from having, say, certain emotes, or like the barrel hide or the tuck down, things like that. There's a little bit of an advantage. Some would argue, but I don't think so. I've never had it where someone can pull off a barrel hide when they're on my ship down below and I don't fall for it because it moves kind of weird. But I can understand where people are coming from, saying you can pay for an emote that's going to give you a small, tiny advantage in PvP when sneaking onto somebody's ship. But you already get the laydown one, which in my mind is the best tucking emote that you're going to get. Every season brings new content. I'm pretty sure the first season brought us the Megalodon, and this current season, season 11, did a huge overhaul to the voyaging system. Now you don't buy them from your faction representatives, you vote for them on the ship, and as your reputation rank increases, you unlock more harder quests. They've even added one of my personal favorite changes to the voyaging system is raid forts. You can do a Merchant Alliance raid fort, which is just like a skeleton fort, but you only pull merchant specific loot. So it just changes it up a little bit. Instead of having to follow the trail, get your logbook, get your crates of diamonds, now you can go to a skeleton fort and have a little bit of PvE combat with skeletons, which is just a great mix-up from how it used to be in the past. And I really, really like this new system. They've also added the ability to dive to your objective instead of having to sail there or sail back. You can still opt to sail there and sail back like how it used to be, but the ability to just fast travel to your first quest point, I think is going to speed up the game, and it's going to make sure everybody on the server has loot on their boat. So if you do get in a PvP match, the stakes are going to be higher. You're going to fight a lot harder. Now, don't go diving to the next objective point when you have loot on your ship, because it will all just float to the surface and you lose it all. The only advantages and disadvantages in my mind that exist in Sea of Thieves come in the form of your different ships. You have your sloop, your brigantine, and your galleon. The sloop is fast, however, it only packs one cannon, so you can't do a lot of firepower, and it's pretty small, so it fills up relatively fast. The brigantine, this is right in the mid. It has 2 cannons, 2 sails, and it fills up a little slower than the sloop. This one, in my mind, is the hardest ship to sail, though. 3 people, it's really easy to get lost on your cannons, and you only have 1 lower deck, so it does fill up relatively quickly, and if you start getting filled with holes on the side, it's gonna be a little hard to manage. It's also pretty long, so to get down to like a front end hole, running through the water is gonna take you a lot longer. You're not gonna be able to just quickly bucket the water out like you would be on a sloop. So this one requires, in my mind, the most organization and the most like chemistry and team communication. The galleon, this is your biggest ship. I wanna say your most defensive ship and your most firepower ship, but holy hell is it slow. It's got 3 sails, so managing the sails on this ship is the absolute hardest, but it's really sexy. The best looking ship in my mind, and it rocks 4 cannons on the side, so every crew member can get on a cannon and you can absolutely obliterate other teams. This one requires a really good helmsman and really good communication on the sails. If your sails go unmanaged, you'll just kind of curve off in a slow arcing line and then you'll be completely out of combat, have to reorganize yourself, get back in. It's a lot harder to manage, a little easier so I would say than the brigantine, but it requires, again, good communication and good skills. So if you're just getting into it, you're just starting, sail on the sloop, solo sail on the sloop, get familiar with all your mechanics, your anchors, your sails, everything like that before you go onto these bigger, more advanced operating ships. Every weapon in this game and sword has the same range to each other. There's no sword that swings in a longer distance than another sword. There's no sword that does more damage. Same goes for the pistols, the blunderbusses, and the eyes of reach. All of these weapons, though the style points will change. Some snipers are sexy, some look stupid. The style points change, but the damage output, the speed of reload, everything like that stays the same, so it really makes combat, in my mind, to a much more pure skill-based system. It makes you have to think about what your next move is, because if someone's better at using the gun than you gotta get creative, fire bombs, blunder bombs. But the nice thing, in my mind, the thing that keeps it very balanced, is that all of the things every person has at every different level has the same damage and same range. So, with all of the voyages, all of the open world activities, the exploration, the little stories sprinkled throughout the world on the little islands, the journals, the lore, the fact you can play with up to 4 friends, force your way through some open crews, maybe find some new friends on a looking for a group tab post, or, in my mind, almost the perfect balance, the absolute 0 barrier to entry, not costing you any money for updates, the customization options, the clothes, the pets, all the customization options for your ship, I think means you should absolutely play this game in 2024. I think this goes in the win category for Rare alongside 007 GoldenEye. I'm really excited to see where they bring this game in the future and if they have any new projects coming up. I'll see you out there on the seas.